In our final segment for today, we officially have the results from 2 state assembly races right here in New York. Now, these 2 races in particular took very long because there was a recount. Now, between both elections in AD 30 and AD 66, these were so close for comfort. Now, according to New York state law, in an election, if the vote difference is 0.5% or under, or if the vote count is 20 votes or less, that will automatically trigger a recount. And both of these races triggered that recount. So good news and bad news. I don't know which one you want to hear first, but I'm going to start with the bad news. So unfortunately, in Assembly District 30, which is my district, which I volunteered and campaigned for, I was so disappointed that at the end of the day, one of the opponents came out victorious by just 7 votes. Not 7%, 7 votes. So for the 7 individuals who decided to stay home and not support, actually the 8 individuals who decided to stay home and not support Shamsul Haque, unfortunately, he lost. And the winner for the Democratic primary in Assembly District 30 is Patrick Martinez. I was not supporting his campaign. While he did run on a platform such as tax the rich, abolishing ICE, but then also running on a lot of the progressive policies that we've been hearing a lot about in New York. Unfortunately, he is the nephew of Joe Crowley. His father was also a council member, so he is a family of the establishment, local politics, but also he wasn't exactly someone who I trust, knowing that he will do with what's right for the people versus the establishment. And listen, he sent a ton of mailers, like so many mailers, had to have been like double digits worth of mailers, which is pretty obscene, let alone like, sure, I definitely had volunteers come to my place and like try to talk to me about his campaign. I wasn't hearing it, even had to tell someone exactly why I wasn't exactly going to be supporting him, give him a very blunt and honest answer. But at the end of the day, he won. So at least from Shamsul Haque, his campaign, which again was the most progressive in the race, rejected all corporate PAC money, had endorsements from Bernie Sanders, Jamal Bowman, and Deanna Moreno, 3 strong socialists in office or formerly in office, supporting taxing the rich, being an ally to Mayor Mamdani in the state legislature, abolishing ICE, reforming our housing laws, but then even having a strong LGBTQIA plus platform. So Shamsul Haque, I just am so honored to have been a part of the campaign, especially with everyone I had the chance to work with. I learned a lot. And the fact that, I got to see firsthand, like, the amount of work ethic and determination that this team had, truly inspiring and truly grassroots. These were people who were in it for the love of the game. So the fact that we saw so many doors being knocked, right? I think they actually had not only the most money raised in the race, but the most doors knocked. I think nearly like over 20,000, maybe nearly 30,000 doors. That is incredible, especially for a state assembly race right here in New York. So I just want to give so much love and support to Shamsul Haque, his campaign, the team, the friends I got to meet along the way, and everyone who, really is fighting hard to make our progressive movement a vision that will not only come to Woodside, come to this area of New York, but also embolden it around the country. So there was a third candidate in the race. They only had gotten like 600 votes. Safe to say that if they weren't in the race, Shamsul could have won, especially if you do the math. But end of the day, if Patrick Martinez is the Democratic nominee, supporting him November, feel free to cast that vote. That being said, we've got plenty of time before then. And, get involved in your local democracy between now and then. However, we do have some good news from Assembly District 66. Now, in this district, we had a winner win, David Siffert. Yes, so David is actually the first non-binary candidate to win their Democratic primary on their way to become the first non-binary state legislator in New York history. So very cool that they, them, have officially won their Democratic primary, and now they're on their way to the legislature. So David ran not only on an incredible progressive platform, but he also had the endorsement of NYC Sunrise Movement. Sunrise has been doing incredible work in every action for years and years now. So the fact that they've played such an integral role from when AOC first came to Congress to what they're doing now with climate policy and getting climate wins around the country, it has been just so inspiring to see this group of hard-working and so motivated are these sunrisers, let's say, who are truly making a difference in climate policy around the state and the country. And I am super excited to see what their campaign does next. Now, on top of that, what's also some good news inspiring from this moment is that now the New York State Legislature will have the most openly LGBTQIA plus members serving. There will now be 3, well, this is also based on if they all win their elections in November, which they will because New York is a blue state, especially with all the deep blue folks in New York City. We will have 3 members of the state legislature who are openly serving LGBTQIA+, but then also 8 serving in the assembly. So 3 plus 8, now we have 11 total, and that will be enough to form New York State's first LGBTQIA+ caucus. So this is incredible news because, this gives LGBTQIA+ individuals all around the state a chance to be heard in our government. Now, we've already been fighting for, same-sex marriage from years ago and, other great protections for our community along the way. But this gives us even more of a voice in the legislature. If we have 11 individuals, pushing and advocating for policies like gender-affirming care, like housing for LGBTQIA+ seniors and homeless youth, this is how we can really make headwinds all around the state, and especially right here in New York City. Especially now that Mayor Mamdani earlier this year created the first ever LGBTQIA+ Office of Affairs. So seeing that now the city has its own basically office for LGBTQIA+ legislation and community organizing, along with now getting a voice in the state legislature, this gives the city and the state more of a connection for more advocacy work and more organizing to really get resources to where they belong with the people. So I am super excited to see how this plays out. Congratulations to the winners of AD 30 and AD 66, and especially to all of the LGBTQIA+ members of this assembly who will be serving come January. Fun fact, did you know that 7 of those legislators are Democratic Socialists? 5 of them were endorsed by New York City's DSA chapter. So let that be known that our most progressive LGBTQIA+ folks are not moderates or centrists. They are progressive and they are Democratic Socialists. So that just tells you a lot to where our community is headed, but also that just proves the important work that we've been doing for so long, for so many years to bring more people into the fold. And this is proof positive of that success. So with all that said, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined in, watching today's podcast, tuning in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, watching on YouTube. It has been a real joy watching our politics just change quite literally over the past week. But this proves even more beneficial for the future. With an anti-LGBTQ+ voice like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell basically out of the picture, and we have now our first ever LGBTQ+ caucus coming to the state legislature right here in New York, we know progress is happening right here on the ground. So how exciting is that even in just a week, we're seeing history change overnight. And I cannot wait to see what our movement does next. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard and want to learn more, then make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also follow along on Instagram and TikTok. I use the same handle for both channels, so follow along at NSFD_pod. Thanks again so much for watching. Make sure to get involved, especially to support Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. And remember, democracy is not suitable without you.